I'm Alessandra Barrett, Associate Director of Special Projects at the Journal of Commerce by S&P Global. And I'm at TPM 24 with Mike Bozza, Deputy Port Director at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Mike, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about business over the past year and how that's compared to where we were during the pandemic.
2023 was absolutely a very interesting year. From our perspective, we see it as a return to normalcy. There was just a tremendous amount of front-loaded cargo. Imports in 21 and 22 were just at unprecedented levels. And so in 23, beneficial cargo owners were spending that time paring down their inventories, right? And there was still a lot of consumer activity. Consumers are buying. Again, getting those inventories back to normalized levels. And so it was kind of a reset for us. And we're back to what we see as more normalized growth. We did a master plan in 2020. And at that point in time, we did obviously a forecast. And the volumes that we saw during the pandemic were volumes that we expected to see in 2030. So now that 2023 is done and we look back, we're right where we thought we would be with our master plan forecast. So it's a return to normal.
What's your outlook for 2024?
We are cautiously optimistic about 2024. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world with the Panama Canal, with the Red Sea. Fortunately, it seems we've got some good news recently about the Panama Canal, and they're increasing the number of passages through that. On the positive side with those developments, though, carriers adjusted, and they adjusted quickly. And so at the operational level at the Port of New York and New Jersey, we really didn't see any significant impacts to those changes in what was happening in the world. Our volumes in January were very strong. And so, again, we are optimistic that we're going to maintain that trajectory of normalized growth looking into the future.
With growth comes increased need on your part. What do you have planned to keep pace with that?
If there was a benefit coming out of the pandemic, I think it was that we had a look at what's coming in the future, right? We got a little look into the crystal ball, if you will. And so we're preparing now for when that volume comes back. And it's a number of initiatives that we have on the Port Authority side and also our tenant partners and other partners throughout the region. So from the Port Authority's perspective, in December, our Board of Commissioners approved funding for preliminary engineering and design so that we can go to 55 feet in New York and New Jersey in partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. So we're very excited about that effort moving forward. We're also advancing a project on the rail side called the Southbound Connector, and that project is going to increase capacity and also efficiency. It's going to give us redundancy through our rail system, which has a tremendous amount of capacity. We're using less than 50% of the available capacity we have on the rail side, and this is just going to further enhance that product for us. And last year, we also started what's called the Port Street Corridor Improvement Project, and that's a $220 million effort with $44 million in federal funding supporting it. That's going to increase both capacity and safety on one of the major entrance and exit pathways into the port complex. In addition, our tenant partners have made significant investments, including new ship-to-shore cranes, other cargo handling equipment, and in their computer systems to speed transactions to improve the efficiency at the port.
The port has prioritized collaboration over the years. When you look at the industry and where we stand at the beginning of 2024, where do you think there still needs to be more collaboration? What areas should be prioritized for coming together in 2024?
That's another area where we're very proud in the Port of New York and New Jersey. 10 years ago, we started what is now called the Council on Port Performance, and it brings together all the stakeholders in the supply chain, from labor, the Port Authority, obviously, truckers, rail, our tenant operators, government, and we talk about the issues and what needs to happen as we look forward. And so, again, when we looked at the pandemic, I think the port was a place where a lot of the issues were visible, but there were things going on in the warehouse sector, there were things going on in the trucking sector, right, and in other sectors throughout the supply chain that really manifested the impacts that we're seeing at the port. And so we have that group in place, and we have those relationships in place. And so through our Council on Port Performance, we're looking at warehousing inventory and building that up so that we can connect, the BCOs with that kind of end node in the supply chain. And we're also we're looking at, enhancing the trucker experience at the port, workforce development initiatives. And obviously, one of the other things that's going to take a tremendous amount of collaboration is advancing environmental efforts. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey last year released a net zero plan. And that plan is, like others, to get us to net zero carbon emissions by 2050 with interim goals as well. And it's great for us to do that, but we need all the partners in the supply chain to buy in. And so, for us, that vehicle has been and will continue to be the Council on Port Performance.
You had the mic on the main stage here at TPM. What would be your message to all attendees?
Not to sound like cliche or corny, but it takes all of us. And again, I think that was the lesson from the pandemic, that, every node in that supply chain, and that's what's so great about TPM. We all pull together, and, we can solve the issues, right, that we're faced with if we do it together. And just from the Port Authority's perspective, we're in a very good place right now. We have, sufficient capacity, and, we're ready to face the challenges of the future, and the cargo that's going to come along with it.
Mike, thanks for taking time to sit down with me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've been speaking with Mike Bozza, Deputy Port Director for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.